Hi guys, today we're going to be watching a delicious video on, oh my gosh, on tater tots. So these are a big source of fascination from a lot of people. I'd say from anyone outside of the US, absolutely in the UK, especially by like younger generations that have seen tater tots mentioned on TV so many times, and we just don't really have them over here. I think the closest we have is probably hash brown bites, but am I right in thinking that our hash brown and hash brown bites have onion in them, and that's not normal for tater tots. Tater tots are just like grated potato, and they're kind of, I don't know, like mashed into like a little ball and then fried. Am I wrong? They always looked, to me, they appeared to look like hash brown bites. So in my head, I just always assume they must taste really similar. For anyone who knows, let me know. Let me know in the comments. Are they similar, or are they just kind of, but not really? I don't know. But they've always been a bit of a source of fascination for me, and they've just got the cutest little name, like tater tots. You got to say it with that kind of like upward inflection, that little high pitch, like tater tots. Oh, I love the idea of them. So this video has been requested from one of my patrons. This is from the lovely Jeff. Thank you, my lovely. Everything's lovely. And Jeff, you say, Boomy, you can make tater tots with a sausage machine. Yeah? Can you? Well, that's what he says in this video anyway. Okay, so today's video, this is from a channel called Great Lakes Country. And the video is called Using a Sausage Stuffing Machine to Make Tater Tots, ? Upward inflection at the end. Okay. I've never made tater tots, so I don't even know where you'd begin. I made hash browns. But then, yeah, like I say, you know, we've got the addition of the onion. Maybe it's just a similar thing, just without the onion. Now, I was looking to purchase a meat grinder. You can use like a different attachment for the same machine, can't you? I did want to purchase them, and that was because the influence of Bradley Robinson from watching all of his videos made me want to make my own sausages and stocks and everything. Anyway, I've blabbed on enough, guys. Let's crack on with the video. If you're enjoying these reactions as well, guys, don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you so much. If you're interested, my lovelies, I have a Buy Me Coffee account. That link is over here. And if you would like to help support my channel any further, I have a Patreon account. And if you want to check that out at all, that link is in the description below. Okay.
John here from Great Lakes Country.
Hello.
You know, recently I had an idea that I figured would turn out to be either genius or idiotic.
Oh.
My money was on idiotic. But I've tried it out a couple of times now, and I can't believe how amazingly well it works.
Guys, they look amazing. They do. They look so similar to hash brown bites, but I think texturally, yeah, it probably is just that they're kind of like a hash brown bite, but minus the onion, which, you know, onion haters gonna love the idea of this. But oh, they look so tasty.
I love tater tots, and my homemade tots are, in my personal, entirely biased opinion, the best. But I find it so tedious to make them that I often just don't feel like doing it because I just don't have the patience. But rather than forming each individual tot tediously, meticulously by hand, I had the thought of, I wonder if I could use my sausage stuffing machine to create a long, continuous noodle of tater tot that I could then slice up into the individual tots.
Oh, I see. That's actually genius. If it works, I think that might actually, I don't think that's idiotic or borderline stupidity. I think that might actually be genius.
So that's exactly what I did, and that's exactly what I'm going to show you in this video. It sounds ridiculous, it looks a little ridiculous, but I'm telling you, I've never made tater tots as good as the ones that are made with this method. Anyway, let's get right into it and start making some of these incredible homemade tater tots. And these tater tots start off pretty much like any tater tot, and that's with some potatoes. So here I've got just a little more than 2 pounds of russet potatoes. I want to end up with 2 pounds after they've been peeled. I will say these are some pretty small russets. That's all the store had. I don't know what's going on, but
that's hilarious, guys, that these are considered small potatoes. Do you agree with him? By US standards, are these small potatoes? Nothing makes me more cross. Actually, okay, that's a bit of an exaggeration. It makes me slightly cross when, if you get your groceries ordered, as I do, and they've given you a bag of potatoes, and the average size of one of them is like that big. It takes longer to peel. You can't use them for half of the things that you would use bigger potatoes for, like jack potatoes or baked potatoes. Just a general annoyance. But yeah, I'm finding that potatoes are like being delivered and smaller and smaller, and some of them worse, like piddling sizes like that.
That's what I got to work with, and they're gonna work fine.
But he
just
says
means
they're
I'm gonna
small.
be peeling a couple
They're
extra
big.
potatoes. Anyway, we'll just get these all peeled up. And once they're peeled,
Woo!
I'll just go ahead and get them into this big pot that's filled about 2/3 of the way with some water. I've got some kosher salt sprinkled in there. The water is still cold at this point. And now this is going on the stove over high heat. I'm gonna let everything come up to a full boil and then start my timer for 7 minutes. We're just trying to parboil these. We want them softened, we want them cooked, but we don't want them mush. So starting with cold water, bring it up to a boil, going for 7 minutes. That pretty consistently achieves exactly what I'm looking for out of parboiling these potatoes. And after our potatoes have finished boiling, I'll pull them out, set them in a little dish here, and now I just have to let them cool down a little bit, pretty much until they're cool enough to handle. So
am I right in thinking that you want a floury potato for these as opposed to like a slightly more starchy, waxier potato?
Set them right here on the counter. Give them about, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes. Now
potatoes?
I've got the old box grater, and we just have to get to shredding each of those potatoes. And I'm doing this over a kitchen towel because I want to sort of get as much of that excess water off of them as possible. They're pretty dry at this point. They've been evaporating for a few minutes, but we really want to try to get as much moisture off of these as we can for all the rest of the steps. So doing this on a towel is going to help. We'll give it a little bit of a squeeze at the end. But pretty much just get to shredding those potatoes. And if I was doing an enormous batch at Tots, I'd probably use the shredder attachment on my food processor. But for just these few small potatoes, this is gonna work out great.
Small potatoes. Oh, if only you knew small potatoes.
Now we can just sort of bundle this whole thing up in that towel, give it a little squeeze, give it a little squish, just maybe press out a little bit more of the liquid that might still be kind of sitting on any of those shreds. It's not gonna be so much that it saturates through the towel and starts dripping. And then we can just sort of dump all of those shreds right into a big bowl. At this point, all we really have are shredded up potatoes. And now is the time when we gotta start adding some stuff to it. First, a tablespoon of all-purpose flour, sprinkle that over top, and a few dry seasonings. A teaspoon of garlic powder, teaspoon of onion powder, half a teaspoon of black pepper, and about a teaspoon of kosher salt. Now for an ordinary kind of tater tot where you're just gonna be making them all by hand, that's everything you need. We just start getting everything mixed and folded and squished into all those potato shreds. But since I am gonna be putting this all into a sausage stuffing machine, and these starchy floured potatoes have a tendency to get pretty dense and sort of sticky, I have found that incorporating just a little bit of lubrication in there really makes a big difference in the form of about a tablespoon of some vegetable oil. And now I can really get in there and start mixing everything together. Don't have to go too crazy, just make sure all the dry seasonings and the oil and the flour are fully incorporated throughout all those shreds. That's looking pretty good to me. And by the way, don't skip the dry seasonings. Seriously, practically all store-bought tots, including those served at probably most restaurants, don't really have any notable seasonings in them other than maybe some salt shaken on there right at the end. They're still tasty, but adding in a few other flavors in the form of dry seasonings really does kick them up to another level of delicious. Now we're finally busting out the sausage stuffing machine. Here I've got my 5-pound Lem sausage stuffer. I've got about the widest stuffing tube on there that I have, which just so happens to be about the perfect diameter for some good tater tots. And I simply need to start loading up that canister with that tater tot potato mixture. Get it all nice and pressed in there.
So am I right in thinking that a meat a meat grinder and a sausage stuffer, they're not going to be the same thing? Or they're not going to be one machine with a different attachment. Okay, they're two different machines. Okay, well, you live and learn.
Now we just need to start cranking out some tater tot. I guess I'll call them sausages or noodles. Big long cylinders of potato that we'll cut into individual tots a little later. Now, unlike actual sausage made of fatty meat, these little potato logs aren't gonna slide very effortlessly across anything. The cutting board, even the parchment paper. So I found that I need to help them along a little bit as they go by either using a piece of parchment paper and just sort of dragging it along as these things come out, just to make sure that they come out in one piece and don't snag or break. And then when I'm at about as long as I want the thing to be based on the width of this parchment paper and therefore a cookie sheet, I'll just give it a little slice with a sharp knife. And there's our first little potato log.
Potato log. It's making that look so straightforward and so easy. It looks quite effortless, doesn't it? What's the washing up and the cleaning away of the sausage stuffer machine? What's that like? Or are you giving yourself just something awkward and additional to wash up as opposed to, making them all by hand? But it looks quite effective.
Alternatively, I could use something like a long spatula with a little bit of cooking spray on it to pretty much achieve the same thing. Really just trying to make sure they stay in one long piece, because if they start breaking,
can't you hold it with the hand?
That kind of defeats the whole purpose of what we're doing here. Anyway, I'll just keep going, crank the rest of these out until I've used up all my potato mixture, and we can move on.
Looks quite satisfying, actually.
And once I've got all of my little thin logs of potato, I need to put them into the freezer for just a little while, about 20 minutes.
Okay.
I need to get them a little bit more firmed up before I try cutting them into individual tots. Because if I do it when they're still quite soft like they are, they have a tendency to squish more than cut into one nice clean little piece.
Oh, okay.
So I'll carefully move this whole thing with the parchment paper onto a baking sheet. Make sure they're just a little bit spread out so they're not touching each other. Put it in the freezer for about 20 minutes. All right, our little potato noodles have firmed up in the freezer, so now we can start cutting them into some individual tater tots. Pretty much, I'm just gonna kind of eyeball it about how wide I think a tater tot ought to be, and just gently slice through. Very sharp knife.
Like 1.5 inches.
And we just repeat.
Oh, look how uniform they all look.
Now we've got all of our individual tater tots, and it's finally time to move over to the stove. All right, so I've got my deep cast iron skillet heating up on the stove over high heat, and in goes some vegetable oil. Couple 3 inches, pretty much just enough to be sure that all of those tots can be completely submerged. And don't worry, once you're done with your oil, you can always strain it, save it for later, use it again. So we'll just let this heat up until it hits 350 degrees or so. And yes, you could certainly use an electric deep fryer or a much bigger Dutch oven or something if that is more comfortable for you to use for deep frying in your kitchen. Anyway, take just a few minutes, heat up to 350. And that gives us just enough time to make ourselves a quick little dipping sauce. And the possibilities for a dipping sauce are endless. Lots of people just like to use regular old ketchup for their tots. But I don't want anything to do with that. But I do rather enjoy a kind of creamy barbecue sauce.
It's music to my ears. You know what I'm going to suggest, guys? Yes, get that Chick-fil-A sauce.
For dipping tots. So I think that's what we're going to make today. That starts with a couple tablespoons of sour cream.
Oh, maybe not.
Couple tablespoons of mayo, couple tablespoons of some barbecue sauce. I've got me some Sweet Baby Ray's, which is one of my favorite regular kind of go-to casual sauces for everyday use. And just a dash of some hot sauce just to give it a little zip. Get that all stirred together. And our dipping sauce is ready.
It's not too far away from the Chick-fil-A sauce, is it? I think I've seen Bradley Robinson make a Chick-fil-A sauce, and it was kind of similar. I forget what's in it now, actually.
And when our oil is up to temperature, I will carefully drop in a handful of these tater tots. Not gonna do too many at a time. I don't wanna overcrowd the pan. I don't wanna bring the temperature down too much. These little potato pieces are super cold right now because they were in the freezer not that long ago. Plus, with a pan this size, indoors, I don't wanna overload it too much, cause it to foam up, boil over, make a just absolutely disastrous mess, and potential fire hazard. Anyway, I'll just stir them around for a little bit after they go in, make sure nothing's sticking together. Just let them fry away. It's gonna take each batch, probably gonna take about 3 or so minutes. We're just gonna let them go until the color turns a beautiful golden brown and it looks like something that you would call delicious. And as each batch is done, I'll transfer them over to a wire rack to let them drip for a couple minutes. Right away, I'll sprinkle it with some kosher salt while they're still glistening. Make sure that salt can stick to them. Drop in the next batch. And there we have it, the most beautiful pile of golden brown, crispy, delicious homemade tater tots. So light and delicate in the middle, and so crispy on the outside, seasoned with all those great flavors. And while there's just about nothing left to do except dig in and have some, I suppose if you were going for something like the prettiest YouTube thumbnail, you could dust the whole thing in a very light sprinkle of some finely chopped parsley. Anyway, I think it's time for a bite.
Yes. What do they taste like? Oh, you hear that crunch?
Hands down, best tater tots I've ever had. There's no question about it. I enjoy a frozen tater tot from the store or from a restaurant just fine. But these, there's just something about them you can't beat with any non-homemade version. Try a little of the dipping sauce.
Oh, yes. Yeah, the sauce. Crunchy, aren't they?
My normal go-to is just a little bit of barbecue sauce, but the creamy version with a dash of hot sauce in there, that's definitely a welcome upgrade. So there you have it, my take on how to make semi-mass-produced homemade tater tots that actually end up being better than any others I've ever had. And honestly, I don't really know what it is about this method that makes those tots lighter and fluffier. My best theory is that when you're squishing and rolling and shaping them by hand, you're kind of compressing everything and they end up being pretty dense. But when you run it through that machine and that plunger pushes them down and forces it out that tube, it's kind of got a standard, constant pressure all the way throughout. And that pressure is just enough for what's needed to force that mixture out. And it ends up being enough pressure to keep them all together so I can turn them into individual tater tots, but maybe not so much that it really squishes and crushes and compacts them into a dense little thing. I'm not exactly sure. All I know is that they come out great, and I'm definitely gonna be doing this again probably every time I ever make tots from now on. No, of course, you don't have to do all that and use a sausage stuffing machine. You could certainly do it the regular way, tediously, and sculpt each one by hand. Nothing wrong with that, but I do really recommend trying this recipe, or at the very least, make sure to mix in some dry seasonings into those potato shreds. It just elevates it to such a delicious place. Instead of just shaking salt on it at the end, mix in a little garlic powder. If you like more of an herbaceous thing, try some, I don't know, oregano. Anyway, I guess that's all for now. As always, I'll put a link in the video description to the full written out recipe if you do want to make some homemade tater tots yourself. In the meantime, be sure to like and subscribe and stay up to date with all our latest stuff, including future food videos. Thanks for watching, and until next time, I'm John, and this is Great Lakes Country.
Hi, John. I was just about to say, I feel awful. I don't like ever not knowing anyone's name and not being able to call them by their name. It feels really rude. John. Oh, what's that there? Swedish meatball sandwich. Oh. John makes genuinely good homemade, like comfort food, doesn't he? Well, those tater tots look absolutely delicious. Oh my gosh, I have to try some. They don't look too involved or too complicated. I think I could give these a go. I don't have the sausage machine. So I'll have to make them individually by hand. But yeah, I think they do seem very similar to the hash brown bites, minus the onion. So we'll have to give them a go. Delicious. What do you guys eat them with? What's the best thing to eat tater tots with? I think like with a burger or a hot dog. I think ketchup, just ketchup and mustard would be nice on tater tots. Oh no, it's got to be Chick-fil-A. Chick-fil-A with everything. Chick-fil-A with chicken. Chick-fil-A with chips. Chick-fil-A with nuggets. I am slightly obsessed with Chick-fil-A sauce. It doesn't look that different though. It looks kind of similar. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching along with me. And thank you once again, Jeff, for requesting this video. Fabulous. Another, I think I'm going to put all of these little recipes together in like a spreadsheet. I'm just going to have to get through them one at a time. There's too many. I've got this really, really long list of all these amazing looking foods I have to try. Anyway, guys, take care of yourselves and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.